people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
The undisputed super featherweight champion of the world, Alicia, the Bumgarner.
That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Some ring IQ hate mail from none other than the atheist Ghostbuster, the guy who's in his tits because Turkey LL Sheik let Hamza Shiraz know he was down on the card.
So?
I raised several points, none of which he cared to address, likely because he couldn't.
But that's no more a sign of corruption than when Floyd Mayweather did it at a Gervonta Davis fight.
And you know that some fights actually have open scoring, where the judges' scorecards are read aloud during the match.
It's not universally used, but they do it.
The atheist Ghostbuster said, thanks for the shout out. I know how much you hate reading, which explains your ignorance.
Ouch.
But just a few corrections on your assumptions. I am far from a Tank fan and have been calling him out for his lack of comp for years. I am also far from a liberal.
Could have fooled me.
I do not search for any content, but rather videos such as yours come up in my feed based on AI profiling.
Does the AI make you watch them?
You would know that if you weren't a boxing hack pretending to be the smartest guy in the room.
You spend this much of your time on a boxing hacks channel?
By the way, Floyd also said he owned multiple skyscrapers. I guess you believe that too? He is not, nor has he ever been a partner or owner of any sort in the PCB.
What about the PBC?
Again, more moral equivalence is the argument of a mental midget.
Being so derelict of morality, I actually offered the atheist Ghostbuster a solution. Several.
What's with that name?
The atheist Ghostbuster? I don't know, I guess he believes in ghosts, but he doesn't believe in God?
Or a god?
You are trying too hard to be different, man.
But you know, I told the guy, if you don't like what's going on in Turkey's shows, simply don't watch them. Don't patronize them, because in doing so, you support what's going on. And you clearly have an issue.
Don't watch it. Should be simple enough.
And if you take issue with this channel and the way the news is formatted, you don't like the perspectives here, well, you don't have to come here either, irrespective of what comes up in your suggestions. I got suggestions, but I don't watch everything that's in there.
We all do.
You went from criticizing this channel for being morally derelict to rationalizing why you should keep coming here?
They all do this shit, man. They all do the same thing.
The atheist Ghostbuster responded, like I said, I will continue watching and commenting all content on social media platforms.
No, you won't.
Maybe you forgot why they are referred to as such.
Maybe you forgot that you're not actually the one in the driver's seat and you don't have a right to be heard. You don't have a right to an audience with me. Is that what you thought?
I don't stop watching the news just because they purposely skew a story for corrupt reasons.
So get that same news from somewhere else, where they don't skew nothing.
That argument is as lame as your moral equivalency argument. You can always block me instead of telling me to stop watching.
I did. And what are you gonna do about it?
Don't know how I will sleep tonight, but I'm sure I'll live.
I'm sure that you're probably in the process of making an alternate email right now so that you can come back here and leave more comments, because that's your type. That's what guys like you do.
You ain't the first one, sweet cheeks.
And you won't be the last. One of the insights you gain as a content creator is personality profiles. And this guy's the obsessive type. He would have me and you believe that this is just a channel that he stumbled upon, not realizing,
Oh, it just popped up in his suggestions.
is that why you've left me in excess of 50 comments?
One or two I could understand. One or two I could see. But 57 comments spread across that many videos. No, you come here on a regular basis and you choose to do so.
To complain?
I figure that anybody's that hung up on corruption in organized sports probably shouldn't watch boxing, since boxing's roots date all the way back to organized crime. and the mafia.
This is well known.
That if corruption and chicanery are hampering your viewing experience, then perhaps you should go experience something else. Because corruption and boxing go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly, and it's always been the case. It didn't all of a sudden start now in Saudi in the year 2025.
And you notice that he didn't bother to address that?
I offered him some solutions, none of which he cares to adhere to because at this point he wants to be a nuisance.
That's what they all do when you paint them into a corner.
The reality of it is, you choose to come here, and you don't like that I pointed that out, that you can get your news from somewhere else. In this day and age, there is no shortage of boxing news channels in the YTBC. You choose to keep coming to this one and complaining when you could be somewhere else.
And you seem to be under the impression that me and you are on equal footing when we're not. You don't have a right to speak. You have a privilege.
You don't have the right to an audience with me.
It's a privilege.
So that when you don't address the talking points I've raised as a retort to yours, you think you get to deflect and you think I have to watch you flop around like a fish?
Taking personal attacks while you do it.
No, buddy. As easily as you are ignored in the real world, that's as easily as you are ignored in the digital one. Let's be honest, I go live 3, sometimes 4 times a week. At any point, you could have clicked the link and had your debate in real time to put me in my place. Guys like you never do that.
You'd rather flop around like a fish in the comments section because you think it's safer.
Where you can have the discussion at your own pace since you can't keep up with mine.
Because I'm smarter.
You do this in real time, you're gonna get embarrassed. You know it, I know it.
So I'm saving you the trouble. I'm saving you the time by advising, maybe you should go somewhere else. You don't want to do that. Well, you don't get to stick around here and be a nuisance.
I don't upload a single video on this channel, then go find you so that you have to watch it. No, you willfully come here and you don't want to acknowledge that.
So many people struggling with so much accountability, you'd rather pretend you only watched it because it came up in your suggestions. I got suggestions too, and I don't watch none of that stuff. Not as much as you watch me.
57 comments, buddy? Really?
Show some accountability.
You can get the same news from someone else with different perspectives, perhaps more parallel to your own. You don't want to do that because you think you have a right to be heard, and you don't.
You say you're not gonna lose any sleep over it. I think you will. I think you're gonna make an alternate email and come right back to me.
I think you're watching this video.
Stop me when I tell a lie.
How do you think I knew you'd watch the last one where I addressed your comments?
Because you come here of your own volition.
Then complain like somebody asked you something.
Won't be seeing ya.
Men's junior middleweight news. The rehabilitation effort for Tszyu is in full swing. The rumors were true. He will be facing America's own Joey Spencer. April 6th in Newcastle. His first fight after 2 consecutive losses to Sebastian Fundora and Bakram Murtazaliev. The both of those names have a lot of consonants in them.
What?
Exactly. This is a 2-pronged process, with the trifecta being a showdown with the winner of Brock Jarvis versus Keith Thurman.
Tim's got to make it through this fight to get to the winner of that fight.
First, we're going to be seeing Thurman versus Jarvis in March, then Tszyu versus Spencer in April for a presumable summer showdown, winter in Australia.
Huh?
The winter months in the land down under are any time period in between June to August. What is summer in the northern hemisphere is winter in Australia.
Tszyu, who was once heralded as one of the best and brightest junior middleweights out there, a chip off the old block like his old man.
He would have fallen far, far from grace if at this point after those 2 losses, he can't make it past a Joey Spencer. Because I've seen Joey, and I got nothing against the kid, but he ain't world class. He ain't world level.
You can't beat him, you might as well pack it up. You're done.
That's what's on the line. This is a crossroads fight for Tszyu. This is make or break.
You have to win!
Or his career is over. And it's as simple as that. I don't make the rules.
Same applies to Thurman. If at this point you can't make it past the Brock Jarvis who was knocked out by Liam Botto, your career is over.
You're finished.
What may end up being shown here in America on Amazon Prime, free of charge I would assume, as these fights are not pay-per-view worthy to a US audience. Maybe in Australia, but not here.
I think this will act as the PBC's offering as some semblance of regular fights as part of a regular schedule. The issue is I don't expect to see very many, if any, American faces on this bill. I mean, we know when it comes to Thurman versus Jarvis, those are no-limit fighters, and all of this is a no-limit promotion.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing if you're in Australia, but if you're in America, you do realize that the audience that swears by the PBC, the Haymanites, they're not actually interested in world boxing and international fighters.
So that if this is what the PBC is offering up as part of a regular schedule of fights for that audience, I don't think this satisfies what they want.
More details to come. This is all on the assumption that they're going to bill this as a regular fight like they did Tszyu versus Murtazaliev,
Which was really a no-limit show more than it was a PBC show.
It's no limit putting the money up to do the show. It's no limit fighters on the bill.
It's a no-limit promotion more than anything else.
Tszyu will be wrestling with some demons. The residual effects of the Sebastian Fundora fight, the Bakram Murtazaliev fight, it's hard to throw with conviction after you were in a fight
Where you couldn't get anything going, where you couldn't do nothing right, when you were never really in it and you got beat from pillar to post. It's difficult.
I wish Tszyu all the best in his rehabilitation.
It's gonna be a long road back.
He shouldn't rush himself. He should take his time, remind himself what it feels like to win again, and remind himself what he can do when he's focused and he's sharp and he's ready.
Good luck.
Elsewhere in the junior middleweight division, on the heels of his big win in Saudi this past weekend, young Vergil Ortiz posted this image with a caption that reads, all right, hear me out. I know technically I'm number 2, but if Terence Crawford is fighting at 168 for the rest of his career, what does that make me? Hopefully my next fight involves the WBA title!
It's not a bad suggestion, being honest with you. The issue is Vergil's name doesn't appear anywhere in the WBA's ranked standings, and at number 1 is Germany's own Abbas Aru.
Amateur standout, I've seen him here and there. The kid's good, the kid's decent, though flying low on the radar in the West.
With the Americans.
He's the guy in the pole position to challenge for the WBA title, not Vergil. So where BoxRec may rank him at number 2, the WBA don't rank him at all. What's interesting is that was a WBC interim title on the line this weekend. Vergil is already in a pole position to fight for a title, just not the WBA, the WBC.
Jermel Charlo is still labeled a champion in recess with the WBA, and it's conceivable that because he still holds that status, if he comes back and the title goes vacant, they could give it to him, but can Jermel actually make 154?
It's been over a year since the Canelo Alvarez fight at 168, and it's been something like 2, close to 3 years since he actually made 154.
And the Brian Castano fight.
The rematch, so I don't know, man. He may still be labeled a champion in recess, which gives him a direct shot at the WBA title, but I don't know that he's going to take it.
Vergil.
He looked impressive this weekend, and his resume is really starting to come along. The Bohachuk fight, the Madrimov fight.
Vergil.
Too much of the conversation after this past weekend's action is centered around a fight that won't happen. A fight between Terence and Vergil because they have Israel as a common opponent, and who did it better? It doesn't matter. Terence is on his way to 168 and Vergil's still at 154. Focus on what's there.
Fundora.
That's what struck me as odd about Vergil's post. That he's talking about the WBA title, but he's not actually ranked by the WBA, and he is ranked by the WBC. He's their interim champion. And now that he made it through his last fight, he's in a pole position to challenge Sebastian.
I'm surprised he didn't call him out.
Sebastian is set to be returning to action very soon opposite the ring Cordell Booker. In defense of his 2 Alphabet titles, he's been allowed a voluntary by both Alphabet organizations, but after that, the pressure is on.
And Oscar and Vergil need to apply it.
I liked the way Vergil looked this weekend opposite the ring. A tricky target, a moving target, a guy who at times didn't want to engage.
Told you, what it reminded me of was Prince Nassim Hamed versus Marco Antonio Barrera, to where Barrera just beat him with the basics. He beat him with the fundamentals. Nothing flashy.
Just good, effective aggression.
I struggled with that prediction, man. I really did. It was tough for me to edge. I struck out on that one.
What I saw Israel Madrimov is happy to be the aggressor so long as he is allowed to lead the dance. But when faced with another aggressive fighter, more aggressive than himself, he became gun-shy. He became flustered, just moving for the sake of moving.
Because he couldn't find a safe moment often enough to let his hands go. He doesn't really start letting his hands go until the second half of the fight, and by then, he's at a deficit. He's already lost a couple of rounds.
He landed some punches, though, he did. Vergil was wearing Israel's handiwork on his face. Such is the case when you're the guy coming forward. The guy coming forward is at a greater risk of being hit because he's the one pushing the envelope.
He's the one coming on.
Getting within striking distance of the other man as opposed to keeping away and keeping off to take something off the punch. When you're the guy coming forward, you're at a greater risk of being hit.
Vergil got hit with a couple of shots, but he took them well, handled himself well, and he was just the more effective fighter in the fight, the ring general. He's coming along nicely.
Back in character.
Vergil.
And he's on the cusp of challenging for not just one, but 2 alphabet titles, because even though his title shot comes to him by way of the WBC, that's not the only belt Sebastian has. He has the brown one, too.
Vergil can win him both if he puts some pressure on him.
I would back Vergil Ortiz with an E
Yes.
to win that fight. I remember when Sebastian fought Tszyu, whose vision was hampered as a result of the cut on the top of his skull. And even with that hindrance, he was able to periodically land big right hands on Sebastian Fundora, who tried to keep him at arm's length.
Box long range.
A sharp deviation from Sebastian Fundora, who doesn't normally use his height and length to keep the other guy at arm's length. No, usually he crowds the pocket himself, gives up his height. But against Tim, he decided to use his extremities, those long levers, to try and keep Tim at the end of the jab.
It worked well enough for him to win a decision, but that was against the guy who was bleeding all over the place and couldn't see. And even with that, Tim was able to land big right hands. So just imagine if that's Vergil.
I don't trust Sebastian Fundora's jab that I think he'll keep Vergil out of the pocket. I don't think he can. If Vergil doesn't slip past it and counter, he'll catch and counter, get inside, and it's all bad after that, because at that range, Vergil, the shorter, stumpier, stockier fighter, will have the advantage.
Why?
At that proximity, the shorter fighter with shorter arms can string together punches faster than the taller guy because the taller guy needs more room to work. And I understand that Sebastian is a bit of an inside fighter himself. Most of the time, he's not a very good one. He's not defensively responsible when he's in there. That's why he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza.
Defense ain't no good.
What I envision is Sebastian will try to use his height, use his length, use his jab to keep Vergil out, but he holds his feet.
That's why Tszyu kept popping him in the face with that right, because he wasn't moving enough.
He holds his feet. Even though he's using the jab to try to keep the other guy out, he's not taking that half step back to maintain distance. He's holding his feet, which is why Tim kept popping him in the face with that backhand. And I anticipate with Vergil's gonna get in.
He's gonna mess him up.
Whether it's slip and counter or catch and counter, he's gonna get past that lead hand, he's gonna get inside, and he's gonna unload. And at that proximity, Vergil's got the advantage. I think he wears Sebastian Fundora out.
Does this fight happen?
Part of me says no. Part of me feels like before Samson Lukowicz would allow Sebastian to lose his titles to Vergil, he'd send him up to middleweight, maybe have him fight Lara for his WBA. Lara's in his 40s.
I could totally see that.
After the Cordell Booker fight, I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves the junior middleweight division after that, because you got 2 belts. That means 2 mandatories, 2 guys breathing down your neck.
Even if one doesn't, the other will.
I really like the idea of this fight and Vergil fighting for those 2 belts, but I don't know that he's gonna get the chance.
I hope he does.